At NPX Point Avenue, we strive to empower tomorrow's leaders to transform the world through wisdom, integrity, and compassion. An improved virtual classroom, machine learning-powered adaptive learning, class administration, and much more. All in one integrated experience for both students and educators in a classroom-as-a-service model. This is NPX Point Avenue Technology. Our virtual classroom allows you to take your class anywhere. Securely manage your class session and join the virtual classroom through the learning management system, directly access materials on the whiteboard for all students, and engage the class with interactive features. Seamlessly build, share, and discover reusable curriculum on the content management system. Leverage concept-based teaching approaches, automated grading, and adaptive learning features to maximize student outcomes and increase productivity. Classes are fully conducted on the learning management system. Easily manage your classes and students on the platform, get insights on outcomes using detailed dashboards, and view, distribute, and grade both physical and digital assignments, assessments, and more. Individual tutors and teachers can join and receive a full educational suite for them and their existing students, reach new students, and securely receive tuition for their classes. Schools, learning centers, and even businesses can onboard and receive an end-to-end education platform to digitally transform their teaching and training operations. Point Avenue's Classroom as a Service platform bridges the gap between the offline and online classroom. Educators are empowered with an integrated solution which they can customize to their needs, whereas students are able to access the same engaging classroom from anywhere. Join us at NPX Point Avenue as we continue our journey of innovation, impact the lives of our students, and grow as a leader in education technology. Character first is the pathway to excellence.
Hi everyone, my name is Charles Kim. I'm head of test prep here at Point Avenue. I'm very happy to be able to be here, share with you important information. It's the summertime, so all of you are not really on vacation, but very busy preparing for your future goals, really mapping out the next year of what you will study. And so those are the topics that we will talk about today. Before coming to Point Avenue, I spent many years teaching test prep in Korea, and then have been able to really understand all the variety of tests with the SAT, ACT, IELTS, TOEFL, AP exams, and SAT subjects. One thing that I was able to learn over the years is that all students don't learn these tests and understand these tests in the same way. And so a lot of that information and experience has helped me and also our team to really understand the way that we should approach teaching these tests, very important tests, to each individual student. So today we will talk about different factors, okay? And so here is how parents can also do some research, really participate in the map making or the preparations of your students, like middle school, high school careers, just making sure that they are going to be prepared to get into the top universities. Second one is understanding university admission process, right? And so we all know that GPA is very important. All of these tests are very important, extracurriculars, and how does that all translate into understanding your percentage or likelihood of getting admissions into the top universities. Also, we'll go over a test prep roadmap because many students who have been able to experience a very good education at an international school or outside a different school, but being able to understand that all of the experiences and knowledges, they don't naturally just come together once you get into high school. And so there is a lot of preparation that goes into elementary and middle school years to properly be prepared so that when you get into high school, these types of tests will be easier to really just digest and to be able to master. All right, so we go into this next slide. It kind of explains what really is the worth, right? The value of each component that the university admissions are looking for. And so we have academics, test scores, extracurriculars, and your interests. And so one thing that you'll need to know is that there is a variation between the US universities Canada universities, UK universities, also like Singapore, Hong Kong. So this is just a general guideline of what you should understand when preparing for your high school career. And so here's our academics. Whether you go to an AP school, IB school, or A-level school, the GPA will be the most important part of your admissions process, right, or application. And so the next one will be the test scores, the SAT, ACT. And so one thing that we all have been hearing the past year and a half is that the tests are optional now. And so we also have to understand that it is optional, yes, on paper, but in reality, the tests are very important and gives the university admissions counselors, right, the officers, more information about your students since they're not going to be able to understand all of the schools that our children are coming from or graduating from. And so even though it says that these tests are optional, really for international students, the more research you know, the more we understand, and then all of the students that did get accepted to the top schools, majority of them, over 80% of them, did submit an ACT or SAT test. And so that kind of just gives us the background information that, hey, even though they say, the universities say that it's optional, in reality, it is a very important boost, a very important part of the college application process. Next one is extracurricular activities and interests. And so those are very important when it comes to American universities because these universities are looking for well-rounded students. And so as I mentioned before, very particular like details, really understanding all of the different universities and what they're looking for, it would be best answered by a professional AC or admissions consulting officer or person because I will give you more about the test prep or the preparation process, but when it comes to the application, there's just a lot more that you would need to research. So let's get into the area of expertise that I know very well is standardized test scores, right? So let's just focus on the main ones like SAT, ACT, IELTS, and TOEFL. What are they? How are they important to the college application? And so, of course, if the higher the test score that you get, the greater the increased admission percentage or possibility you will have for each university. And so remember, all the universities, even though they're grouped in like Ivy League and then the top 20, top 30, top 40, they do not follow the exact same process of calculating your scores. And so that is something that if you could understand a little bit more, how important it is to do very well in each area and the standardized tests. All right, let's start with an example. And so everyone knows UCLA, right? And so UCLA, over the past few years, it's been very difficult to get into. And so it's very, very competitive. And so this is just a general overview of what would happen whether with whatever GPA that you have and in addition to your SAT test score. And so if we have like a 3.9 GPA and then an SAT score of 1400, pretty much the score calculator that goes with admissions is pretty much 14%. And so give or take 5% each year. So some years it's more competitive because you have better students applying or more students who have greater scores and GPA. If you continue to look through it, the higher that you get of the SAT, you increase by a certain percentage, 4%, 5%, right? And so as you continue to grow, pretty much 1/3, right? A 33% chance is something very good. Of course, 50% chance is very good, right? So every 2 schools that you apply to, most likely you'll get into one. But for the top schools, really getting to the 20 to 25% probability rate would be ideal, okay? And so how can you get there is really understanding that the higher the GPA you have and with a higher SAT score, you can increase your chances. But of course, like we said before, the GPA is so much more important. So if you have a higher GPA and a lower SAT score, it's still a greater percentage than a 3.9 with a perfect SAT score because they're mapping out how hard the student, how diligent the student was over a course of the high school career rather than just really being very good at just one test, okay? So it's very important to not only do well in school, but to also get a very high score for the SAT. All right, so let's focus on the courses that PEA provides, right? So we provide the SAT, IELTS, and TOEFL. So in regards to the college admissions, we just went over the higher the test score that you get, then the better the chances of getting into a university is. Also, one other factor that we should always consider is really understanding these tests, why the universities weigh the scores so importantly, especially a difference from 1450 to 1500, which is only 50 points. So in reality, it was only like 5 to 7 questions that a student got more right to get a 1500. But what does that really prove? And so the universities want to make sure that the students are academically prepared so that they will succeed once they go into university. Because there are many times when a lot of the students, they study very hard, they're very good at memorizing, but then once they get into a very good university, their actual background, like foundational skills when it comes to academic English, are a little bit weaker, and so they do struggle in university. And so when we look at the SAT reading, we have like different science passages, right? A variety with astronomy, biology, chemistry, physics, and really understanding just the depth of the reading, whether it comes to like the different terminology for the courses or all of the different ideas. And then also the college level English. So if you do very well for the SAT reading, which is known to be the hardest section for the SAT, then it pretty much shows that your English academic ability, not just regular English speaking fluency, is very, very good. And so the universities will have like greater comfort in knowing that, okay, if we do accept this student and they do come to our school, they won't feel like, concern that the student will have difficulty when they come to take our classes, right? And also for like TOEFL and IELTS. And so that is just another indicator for the universities to understand that the English proficiency, right, the skills when it comes to speaking and writing are all there so that you can succeed in university. And so the IELTS writing, it has like a variety of English or English literature, political science, linguistic, different charts, how you read through it, just really understanding overall critical thinking skills. And so being able to not only understand, but the output skills of speaking and writing very well organized and very well cohesive, like essay, responses, that really shows that very high level score will also show and prove to universities that you are ready for the intensity of the top-notch universities. Okay, so to wrap up, really understanding that the test scores, SAT, ACT, IELTS, TOEFL, AP exams, really just kind of justifies a student's overall academic ability, not only to learn new information and to retain and execute, but also really understanding their English proficiency. And so a lot of these schools, they really want to feel and see the certainty that your student throughout his application, with everything that they've done over the 4 years, will really demonstrate how they will perform in university. And so we've gone through a lot of the process, right? The different importance of the tests. And so, just as a recap, we have the ACT, SAT, different subject mastery when it comes to IB programs or A-level. And so as we go through this, one thing that will be very important is really developing a roadmap. Whether you start in elementary school or middle school or high school, really planning out every single year which tests that you'll be focusing on, which courses you'll be taking at school, so that they align and connect so you can get the best possible outcome and achieve the greatest number of scores, right? Okay, so if I could share with you our product roadmap, and this kind of starts from 5th and 6th grade. So right now at Point Avenue, we're expanding our test prep programs really to find and to help the students who are more academically motivated to really get on course, right? To be on that path so that when they get through middle school and go into high school, they are fully prepared to kind of maximize their potential. And so if we look over here, in elementary, we have a TOEFL junior program. And that's really kind of like adding the foundational skills, right? Reading, writing, vocabulary, grammar, listening skills, note-taking skills that you'll need so that you can really do well in school. And so as you progress in the middle school, we'll focus more on like world history, literary scholars, which is literature, right? We'll go into TOEFL Junior again or SSAT and really expand your overall critical thinking skills. And so once you develop the critical or logical reasoning skills, it just makes it easier to really just digest and learn a variety of subjects, whether it be science or math or humanities. And so really just building those like key foundational skills, those thinking skills when it comes to your middle school years, okay? And then as you continue to grow in like 7th, 8th, 9th grade, we want to just keep expanding, right? And so majority of the high-level students, they will continue to grow because once you go into IB program or AP, usually English literature will be the most difficult course, right? And so being able to properly prepare when you're younger so that when you go into school or high school, being able to do well in these courses that majority of other students are having challenges with gives you that flexibility and hopefully the time to really focus more on your interests, really building up your skills in the areas that you're going to pursue in university. And so it's just continually really understanding which exams and which subjects you should really focus on throughout 5th, 6th to 7th to 9th grade to be really understand how you can assess, right, evaluate your progress compared to what would be accepted at the top universities. So, continuing about the roadmap, we have here, so the main thing, it would be great, right? So to sit down with the test prep teachers, to sit down with our AC, counselors, to really set down goals, right? And so not only which universities you want to go to, but what are the majors that you're like really interested in, and to be able to like kind of map out what I'm going to do in 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade. Because the greater amount of preparation you have and the greater amount of depth, right? What you actually did. Not like a 2-week internship, maybe like a small project that you did, but really having months and hours and years of experience in your interests to really show why it is that you really care or want to study the major that you are going to apply for. And so really setting out your goals, and then when you come to Point Avenue, we will have a diagnostic testing, and then we will give you a guide, right? A roadmap on what you should be studying at that age level so that you can really get to that point where you can succeed in high school. And then the learning plan will be whether you're going to go to like the science pathway or the humanities pathway or the art pathway. And so there are so many different types of majors. And so all of you can't be studying the exact same way because there's different skills when it comes to preparing for your future career. Okay? And then finally is mastery. And so like I said, we've been very successful not only at getting very high test scores here, but also our students really understanding the subject matter that they're really pursuing, right? So whether it be math, to be able to take not only high score in the SAT, but really taking the AP, Calc AB, BC, taking statistics, getting the high level different competitions like AMC under your belt so that your application really shows that you are very, very good at math, which will allow the college admission counselors to feel very comfortable that if we allow the student to come to our school, they will succeed. Everyone should know, what the TOEFL is, what the IELTS is. SSAT, we also use that to show, the capability of students who would be able to be successful in boarding schools, right? And so a lot of the parents and students, they're like, once I get to that age, I'll start studying for the test. And then within a year, I should be very good, be able to get a high score because I've been, studying English my whole life. But really, that's not the case because there are a lot of foundational skills that go into these tests, like vocabulary, grammar, a lot of subject knowledge. And so if you don't have that base foundation, it is not impossible to do very well in a short time. However, it would be much more challenging. And so really understanding in each grade, there is a way to evaluate so that you can quickly start if you're far behind or you're behind. And then if you're ahead, then now you can kind of map out what can I do in the next few years to really put myself in a great position so that I can get into the school of my dreams. So if I could share with you pretty much the approach that Point Avenue Test Prep program takes is one thing that I feel I'm really proud about, and also like kind of sharing with my teammates and with you parents and students, is that my many years of like working in Korea with all of the students and parents really kind of transformed my own perspectives of how like students need to prepare. And so when it comes to doing well on these tests is very important, but also being very confident in what you're like studying and to understand what I will study in the future, knowing that you have the confidence that you will be very, very like ready to succeed. And so we have our subject mastery, right? So we're gonna go over with all the years of experience that myself and all of our teachers have, we really know these tests in and out, right? And so we know exactly the different tips and strategies, the way that the students need to learn and digest information. And so our goal is to make sure that the students are masters of all the different tips and strategies, the way we approach the test, okay? And then here, confidence and endurance. So this is kind of like the one factor that I brought from Korea, is that people are like, dang, dude, this is such a Korean style of learning. But really that endurance of being able to take 3.5-hour tests, being able to focus for the entire time, not losing focus and not making silly mistakes, it's super important. And so just like working out your body, working out your mind, we need to really continue push ourselves to the limits, right? And so once you step into a test that you're physically and you're mentally very well like prepared. And the last one is strategic application, like I was talking to you, tips and strategies. And so one thing that I'm very confident is that a lot of the teachers, just not only in Hanoi and Korea, they all know a lot of tips and strategies. But when it comes to specific points, repetition of what comes out, those are the things that here at Point Avenue we really share with our students, just really understanding when you look at a passage or a question, knowing exactly what you should do so you can get the right answer. We were very lucky to have our few students this spring be able to take the SAT, IELTS, and TOEFL, and then they did very, very well. So last year, just to kind of break down the way that we should see this, is that 47% of our students who took the SAT got over 1,500. And so that's pretty much 1 out of 2 students. And so, I mean, that is one area that I feel very confident in being able to challenge many other teachers or academies in saying that, hey, how many students are you getting over 1,500, right? And so another factor that I'm very confident and very happy to share is that a lot of our students, once they get 1,500, 1,520, 1,530, they also understand from the mastery, from the endurance, from all of the training that we provided, they know that they are able to get an even higher score. And so they don't usually just stop once they get a very low 1,500, but to be able to understand, hey, you know what? Not only for super score, but also for just a higher score, knowing that they have the ability, they usually take the test a second and third time. And so that is one area that we are very happy, and we hope we can help guide you also into getting to that confidence and that understanding that you can really get a good score, not because, not only because we have the ability to share with you the knowledge, but you will gain that confidence that you know you can do it. So let's take some time to do some Q&A. So any questions that you may have, please shoot them to. All right. So one of the questions is, do we need a test prep program even if my kids go to an international school for a long time? And so what kind of program should they take? And so that is kind of something that a lot of the parents and students, they should also understand, is that international schools are not the answer to get very high test scores. And so as you may know, right, a lot of the schools, they're like project-based schools. And so rather than really like honing in on the vocabulary, grammar, overall subject matter, they really like ask the students to really broaden their like speaking skills, like their interaction, group working skills, which are very important. But understanding that fact, it's going to be very challenging for a lot of the students to be able to work towards getting those skills that will help them achieve a perfect score on these tests. And so one of those things that I've always been able to kind of guide the parents and students is that once you're young, we all know, parents, we all know, right? One of the most important things that we should ask our students and guide our students to do are read a lot of books, right? So what do books provide? They give us not only a lot of knowledge, a lot of vocabulary and grammar skills, but they naturally give us perspectives of how people think, pretty much different social factors, historical factors, all of this information that will allow us to build the logical reasoning skills that will be very important to do well on these tests. Another thing is to really start practicing when they're young. The ability to really rate yourself, assess your own academic growth. That is one area that we do hope that our students can learn. And that is one area that I've been very fortunate to work with a lot of students that personally have their own motivation and really want to do well. So it's easier to really work with those students because now just giving them guidance, finding the best ways to help those students achieve the greatest and highest goals, right? And so a lot of reading, a lot of vocabulary, a lot of detailed learning, right? When it comes to different subjects like science, humanities, math, and then just really understanding that the parents, you guys will have more input on being able to help guide. So really mapping out a really, really clear roadmap of literature, math, and science. So next question. I wonder if students should focus more on basic knowledge, such as language and math, during their secondary years or high school years, rather than, or have them study fields of interest, right? And so that is a very difficult question to answer because it matters, which university is very important. So is name value more important, or the level of education, and then maybe going on to graduate school and getting a PhD? It's a different path, right? I really think that would be best to have, of course, a very long discussion, right? Not one day, let's decide, right? A very long discussion with your child, with other experienced, mentors. Start earlier, right? And so it's not maybe making out a very clear, detailed roadmap from first grade, right? That's way too early. But really understanding how I should reach certain goals for my child's educational path. Well, thank you for joining. It was a very long webinar, but we're still getting questions. What our marketing team will do is we will respond to you all privately and then give you more guidance and connect you to the right people who can help you answer your questions. So thank you for joining this webinar, really discussing what we should do to prepare our students, whatever age they are, so that they can be successful getting into the university of their dreams.